Hi, everyone, and welcome to CO's first Workshop Wednesday. I'm Jeanette Mulvey, the Content Director of CO, a publication for small businesses from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We know that small businesses are taking a major hit right now during the coronavirus pandemic, but we're here to help you through it. So every Wednesday, we'll speak to business owners and experts from across the country to discuss how to keep your business running while the economy is on pause. Many of you may have attended our live events over the past few years, and even though we can't see you in person right now, though we would love to, we still want to connect with you and give you insights you need to keep your business running through this really, really difficult time. So throughout this series, you'll see some familiar faces from our past live events and some new experts as well. You'll get a chance to ask your questions during this event, so you can type them in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you see a question that someone's already asked that you also wanted to ask, please make sure you use the thumbs up feature. That will help us prioritize the most popular questions. Also, just know that this event will be recorded and you'll be able to read it on CO after the event. So let's get to today's workshop. Today, we'll be discussing strategies to keep your customers engaged, especially during this time when you can't serve them the way that you did in the past. We'll be answering your questions on how to use digital tools like email and social media to meet customers where they are right now, which is mostly at home, and keep them engaged and committed to your business. Today's panel features three people we've met on our events before. The first is Marcus Davis. He is president and CEO of the Breakfast Club and 3 other restaurants in Houston. Then we have Haley Griffiths, who is head of public relations for Buffer, which is a social media management platform. And we have Dennis Steele, who's the co-founder of Podium, which is a customer retention and communication tool that lets businesses manage their customer communications. So thanks to all of you for joining me today. It's great to see you all again. Marcus, I am going to start with you. I know that you own 4 restaurants, and right now 2 of them are shut and 2 of them are open, but you've had to change the way you're doing business for those 2. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how things have changed and how you're handling that?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for hosting this event. I think it's important that we as entrepreneurs have an opportunity to hear from one another, bounce ideas off of one another, and learn from one another in this time of need. So yes, we are, we do have a slight alteration in business. We actually have 4 street side concepts and 2 airport concepts. And in the airport, 1 is open, 1 is closed. And yes, street side, we have 2 open and 2 closed. And, we have been put in a position where, 1, we have to protect the public's trust that they've placed in us and honor what our city government and state government has put in place, which is the stay at home. And for restaurants and bars, you have to only do to-go business. So we've completely shifted to only takeout business, as well as delivery, as well as online ordering. And I must say, one of the things that this time does for the entrepreneur is that it forces you into a position of being an entrepreneur, trying to listen to the marketplace and create what the marketplace is calling for.
Yeah, so I think that you really had a strong community in place already with your customers. Fortunately, you were already really had built a reputation with them. So tell me, how are you leveraging that, and how are you using that to communicate the changes to them?
So this is where years of data building has come into place, where we have thousands, tens of thousands of email addresses. We have thousands of text message, telephone numbers where we can text. We have thousands of folks on our social media, our Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter account. So that is a major source of information, because I think the internet is up some 30-40% the usage, and so everybody's at home, they're online, they're surfing social media even more than they were before. So we're using that platform as a way of reaching out and connecting with our guests.
Well, that is actually the perfect segue for me to ask Dennis a question. So Dennis, Podium allows businesses to manage all of their communications with their customers, whether that's by email or text or social media. So right now, your customers are clearly using that technology. What are you finding are your customers' greatest needs right now in terms of communicating with their customers and managing that communication?
Thanks, Jeanette. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Excited to share what we've been learning since we work with so many small businesses. So since we started Podium, we've seen this need for local businesses and small businesses across America to have better tools to communicate with their customer. And so we provide messaging tools for these businesses to be able to text them, message them on Facebook, and even take mobile payments in a touchless manner. So we've seen this trend over the last few years of this need and this experience. That's really nice experience to have as part of your business, to be able to communicate with customers this way and take payments this way. But now what we're seeing with COVID and the current situation is we saw this huge shift from being kind of a nice to have experience for your business to the only experience you can have with your customers is messaging and kind of this touchless experience. And so really it's forced a lot of our customers to completely adapt. Even our customers who had the tools in place maybe didn't have enough attention on them, and now it's the only way for them to reach out and communicate with their customers. And so it's really forced businesses to adapt. And I guess the positive thing is it's amazing to see how these businesses and customers are adapting, right? Business needs to go on, right? Businesses need to stay open and customers need to continue to transact. And so we're trying to help as much as we can allow these businesses to message and communicate with their customers. And so
I was just going to ask you, does that mean that you guys are doing a lot more training and quickly than maybe you were before?
Yes. We've seen a huge surge in inbound messages to our customers and then inbound messages to us from our customers on what are the best ways to do this, right? And this can be anything. Just an example would be like a jewelry store who, typically takes payment in store and does everything in person, to having to do, video calls showing their products, shipping it out, and taking payment mobilely through Podium. And so being able to share these use cases, and we're seeing a lot of use cases across different industries be applicable, right? So that same use case that the jewelry store is adapting to, now the car dealership is having to do virtual tours of their vehicles out on the lot and using Podium to do that. And so really we're helping our customers with these new ways to communicate and to adapt to the current situation, and just trying to provide as many tools as we can for them. So one of the things that we've done is we actually recently launched what we call Podium Starter. And this was because of everything that's going on. And this was basically, we've never done this before, but a freemium version of Podium, where we basically want to just help businesses stay in business, get some messaging tools in place so you can keep your doors open and keep communicating with customers, because really it's the only way to do it right now. And we just want to be able to put a little goodwill out there and help businesses continue to communicate and get those tools in place, because a lot of businesses don't have the right tools in place to adapt right now.
Right. So let me, that's a good place to jump to Haley. So Haley, Buffer is a social media management tool that helps businesses manage all of their social media channels for customers. So what are you seeing in terms of how your customers are using Buffer and what they are needing in terms of support from you? Social media is now obviously another really go-to way of communicating.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we help all of our customers with planning, publishing, analytics, and engagement on social media. And so we're seeing a couple of things. One is that we're seeing customers, they do want to hear from businesses. They want to hear how you're doing, especially if you're a favorite business of theirs. And then they also want to hear your advice. And I think something that we've seen a lot of is that our customers who are small businesses, they created their small businesses to solve problems for their community. And now their community has a new set of problems. And so their community might be looking to them to solve these new problems now. So we've been encouraging and we've been seeing a lot of businesses creating content around the ways that they can help their community and their customers right now, and the different tools that they suggest or the different ways that they can use their product. And I do think it's a fine balance between being overly promotional and sharing, but I do think that at the end of the day, a lot of your customers do want to hear from you. So I've heard businesses that are scared of going on social media. And I think if you go into it with that attitude of just like understanding you're a human, you're talking to other humans, and you are really coming at this from a place of help, and your business can truly help people, then I think the messaging always comes across really well there. So we have seen a lot of just like more content and creating more resources and just sort of like talking to your customers more. That seems to be something that a lot of customers want and that a lot of businesses have been really good at doing.
You know, Haley, we've been at a couple of events together, and I've heard people ask you this question, and I think it's really appropriate right now for businesses who are just starting out on social media because they didn't need it before. Should they be thinking about being across many social media channels, or should they really try to focus on just doing a great job with just one or two?
I highly recommend just focusing on one or two. I do get this question a lot. And I think if you think of it that way, especially when you're first starting out, this is definitely when I give this advice. If you are trying to be successful at all of the social media channels, it means you're only putting a little bit of energy into each of them instead of being able to grab one or two channels and put more energy into that. And I also get asked a lot, how do I choose those channels? And my advice there is to research the audience demographic of those channels. Something that you'll see a lot more is you'll see maybe a younger demographic, especially on TikTok or on Instagram. You'll see an older demographic on Facebook, or you'll see, you know, a higher education level for the demographic that's on LinkedIn. So do research and look at who are your customers, and then who is on these social networks, and then where does that line up? Like, which of these social networks is most going to have your customers? Because that way, instead of trying to pull people to a social network that they aren't already using, you're going where people are already engaging, where people are already spending time, and especially your customers. So that would be my advice there. Pick one or two, figure out the platforms that really work for your audience and that are truly the best platforms where your audience already exists, and then go there and create content, the best content that you can at just those two places.
Sure, that's great advice. And I knew you were going to say that, so I'm glad that you said it. So Marcus, that brings me back to you. What, other than, you know, we have great food and you can pick it up, what do you feel more broadly is the most important thing that businesses in general can be communicating to their customers right now?
I think there are a couple of things that are incredibly important to communicate to the customers. But I want to thank Haley for that bit of information. That was very, very useful. But I also have a question for you, Haley, about businesses who have perfected one or two platforms, but during this time are looking to add on. Is that recommended, and how would you recommend going about it? But you can come back. We can come back to it. I just don't want to forget that question. What I've been communicating to our customers are, first and foremost, gratitude, thanking them for 18 years of supporting us through every single obstacle that we've had that has mirrored this, or that has been synonymous, from hurricanes to 2008 recession, so on and so forth, and instilling in them the importance of us perfecting what we've been preaching from the get-go, which is community. This is when from day one, the Breakfast Club has been about establishing and building community. And this is when it comes to real fruition. It has in the past been real, but this is when you really engaged in what it means to really depend and lean on one another. The entrepreneur cannot exist without the community, and the community cannot exist without the entrepreneur. The other thing that I share with our guest is the totality of who we are as small businesses. We're not just a restaurant. We're not just a mom and pop shop or a Main Street business. Small businesses are the backbone, and I can't stress that enough. We are the absolute backbone of this nation's economy. And what that means is when I wake up every morning, I have 100 mouths to feed. I have 100 lives that are dependent on me doing my job as an entrepreneur. In addition to that, the 2 people that they go home to every day means that I have 300 people that are dependent on me as an entrepreneur doing what I do and doing it well. And so the community has to hear that supporting these businesses is supporting the livelihood of their neighbor. And so when you put that communication out there, it helps people to understand that you're not just buying biscuits, but you're buying biscuits to help buy baby formula for the cashier or for the cook's daughter, or helping them to sustain during this time. And also helping them to understand that it's one thing to sustain employment during this time, but it's a whole nother thing to sustain the business, so that when we do come out of this cycle, that people have a place to return to in terms of work. So yeah. I think it's incredibly important that it's communicated what small business means to this nation. And the reason I stress it is because so often we see Wall Street as the top tier, and we see Main Street as a second tier, and then we see the worker. And I just think that it has to be flipped upside down. We have to see the small business that employs so much of America, more than half of this nation, as top priority. And that's why we have to salvage and strengthen these businesses. Right.
Thank you, Marcus. I think that you have many in the audience cheering right now. Haley, can you very quickly, can you answer his question about, and then I'm going to come to you, Dennis, can you answer his question about businesses that maybe want to add a social media channel right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was a great question, Marcus. And I also love how you've been going to focus on gratitude with the people that you're talking to. I think that is like absolutely an incredible thing to be sharing on social media. So I love that. And I think that's a great question. So I feel like for 1 or 2 social networks, that's definitely what I recommend when you're starting out, or if you have a really small team and you're like, this is, I can only focus on so many things, so I can only really do 1 or 2 channels right now, then that's great. If you've really done very well at those 2 channels and you're ready to expand, I think that the main thing you have to look at is, why are you expanding? Is it because you're reaching a new audience there? Is it because this is a channel like where people you've heard from them that they want to hear from you on this channel? So really narrow in on like, why are we going to this channel? And then create content specifically for that channel. So if you are doing really, really well at Twitter right now, for example, and next step for you is going to be Instagram, that's a whole different platform. You're going from text-based to image-based. And so really narrow in on the content that you're creating and create it specifically for that channel. I think that's what I see. When you go from those 1 or 2 channels, you can kind of create the same content as best you can. And like you do whatever you have to there. But when you're expanding, if you're doing a really good job, you're creating quality content for each of those channels. And so I would say that's my advice on getting started there. Really add value to the way that people are consuming that content on that channel.
Great. So Dennis, we talked before about video and about businesses using video to communicate. Are you seeing best practices in terms of video communication, things that are working, that are, whether it's Zoom or Teams or House Party, that customers are using, that small businesses are using to communicate with their customers that are working?
Yeah, so this time is so incredibly tough for everyone, right? There's a huge amount of stress that everybody's dealing with. And it's amazing how powerful it is just for people to be able to interact in a comfortable way, something that's just comfortable to them, right? And what we've seen is even just the power of a text message, because you're texting your family and your close ones all the time right now. And a best practice we've seen is just for businesses to say, hey, we're here, right? And we're in business, we're open, and we can handle this situation. Although it's tough, we have the tools in place to handle the situation and give them a comfortable situation. And that's what we've seen to be really powerful. So we saw this initially in the last few weeks. We did this initiative called Text to Takeout. And it was first just directed towards restaurants. It was, if you're a restaurant, we just want you to stay in business. at no cost. Just sign up, get the tools in place to be able to communicate with your business, take orders, take payments mobilely, and help people feel that although the message you're hearing from the news all day long is everything's shut down, we're open and we're here for you. And we just saw so many stories of success from the business and from the customer saying, oh, this is amazing. I'm so glad this is there. And that's what extended us to say, hey, let's just do this for everyone, right? And so we opened it up to every single business. Podium.com/starter. If you go there, you can get the tools in place to be able to communicate with your customers and kind of stay in business. And that's what we feel like is really powerful, is just saying, hey, we're here, and even through this challenging time, we're going to be able to communicate with you in a comfortable way, something that they're used to, and kind of give them that experience that they're used to, even in this kind of troubled time.
Great, thank you. So we are going to switch now to the audience Q&A. And Haley, the very first and most popular question is, what social media platform is the best for customer engagement right now? Now, I know that probably varies by company type, but do you have any general thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That does vary based on company type. That I think that it depends based on who you're trying to reach. So there might be a lot of engagement, but is it really the people that you're trying to reach? Is it really your audience? I think that's the most important question. I do think probably just in terms of like what's the most popular social network at the moment with a lot of engagement from customers from that business perspective is Instagram. They're also developing a lot of really great features for businesses right now in terms of online shopping and things like that. So I would say Instagram from that perspective, but before you go diving into any social network, just definitely make sure that your audience is there and that it fits in with your overall strategy.
Great, thank you. Actually, Marcus, I think this is a good question for you. How are you adjusting the timing of your email correspondence to account for people's changing schedules? So have you seen a change in when people are wanting to order breakfast, or? Oh, I think you're on mute. Hang on.
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm that kid in class that always messed up, so I know I'm gonna get in trouble. But nonetheless, yes, there's a rhythm that we have to get into. It's kind of like, you know, before you have to kind of look at social media and see what was the best time of day to post. But yes, since everyone is at home, there are, you know, different times of day where I think that people are most responsive. It's not as regulated as it was before, simply because of people's rigorous, you know, get up, go to work, drop the kids off at school, pick them up.
Right.
I think that's changed, and so it's more so. I think it's more so making sure that your message permeates than the time of day that you post, right? Because everybody is putting information out there, because that's the only way we can connect with our guests. So I think it's making sure that the quality of what you're putting out there. I mean, I stroll through. I text some of my colleagues and I'll tell them. I said, "Hey, man, what you posted the other day was fantastic. It made me stop. It made me drool. It made me, you know, pick up the telephone and call my wife and tell her I know what we're going to eat for dinner tonight." So, you know, what you put out, the quality and the caliber of what you put out is extremely important. But I gotta say something else about personal touch. The other day I was. As I was trying to figure out what we were going to do, and I was actually working on our strategy, the term "back to the basics" kind of hit me, right? And the reason it hit me was because I was walking up and down the street, going to apartment complexes, letting them know in the neighborhood that, hey, we're here, we're open. And that's how I started this business 18 years ago, walking up and down the street like a madman, letting folks know that we were here. So, you know, when I say back to the basics in terms of one-on-one conversations over the telephone, one-on-one text, reaching out to folks. And I know it takes a lot of time, but you'd be amazed how valuable people find it when you reach out to them in a personal setting, even though the guest or colleagues or what have you. I just think that back to the basics is so important. I started this business being able to visit guests one at a time, and being able to look at plates one at a time. this takes us back to having the ability to do just that. So I can have longer conversations on social media or in the inbox or in email or by text because of the amount of time that we have.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. Dennis, I have a question here. They've actually come in the perfect order for each of you. So I think this was very popular. Any advice on how to strike the appropriate tone when I approach my customers for business during this crisis? So yeah, so how do you do that? How do you balance, asking for their support, but also wanting them to feel like they're still getting value?
Yeah, I think it's tough not to be kind of frantic and feeling a little desperate at times, right? When it is tough for everyone and things have slowed down, I think for everyone across the board, to kind of feel like, oh, am I reaching out too much? Am I inundating my customers a little bit? I think a certain approach would just be showing empathy. I mean, we've been trying to do that as much for our customers, of saying, hey, we understand the situation. We have challenges too, but having a message that we're in this together and we're here to help. And I think that goes a long way. Just a little bit of goodwill, and we believe in a lot of karma here of giving goodwill, it will come back to you. And I think local businesses, to Marcus's point, they are the backbone of the economy, right? And they have a special place to send that message of, we're in this together, we're going to get through this, and we have the ability to kind of push through this. And so I think that's what we're trying to do as much as possible at Podium, is just show empathy, show understanding of the situation, but also be optimistic that luckily we do have technologies and tools in place to be able to deal with this, and then we can kind of get through it together. So I think that goes a really long way, and we've seen that.
Thank you for that. Marcus, this is a question specific to the restaurant industry, but I'm asking it because I think actually there's broader B2B implications, and I feel like a lot of the coverage about small businesses dealing with this crisis have not been focused on B2B businesses. So this person says, I sell equipment to the restaurant industry, and someone like you, Marcus, would be a target customer. So they're saying, how do B2B businesses approach their business customers during this time, because they need to still be selling, but they also want to be sensitive to the fact that you're in a difficult situation. So just any advice on how you would want to be approached right now by a B2B business trying to sell to you?
I think Dennis just hit the nail on the head. Empathy, making sure that you communicate to that business, you understand what they're going through, and whatever product you're trying to pitch to them, or good or service, showing them how this is beneficial to them. And I would even say, and I believe I heard Haley say this earlier, I would even say it's one of those times where you may have to be you may have to be a true salesman, right? You may have to extend the olive branch or the leaf out there, hoping for a return, knowing that you may not get a return on that investment, if that makes sense, right? Meaning I've had people approach us and say, kind of what Dennis said about Podium, hey, come use this for 30 days, use this for 45 days or what have you. See if, let the proof be in the pudding. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. I can appreciate, as a business owner, someone who is trying to help me get through this so we can be in a partnership, in relationship after this, more than someone who is trying to nickel and dime me, even if they know that I desperately need this thing. I actually had this situation happen to me recently where I had a vendor that I had to set to the side because they were more interested in the right now than helping us to get through this period so that we could both do well after this is over.
Right. I think that's great advice, and it applies to any industry. Haley, back to the idea of joining new social networks in this crisis. We have a lot of people asking about TikTok, so I'm glad you're here. What is your best advice for using TikTok right now?
Yeah, I will say I am not a TikTok expert, but I'm happy to answer this question. I would say for TikTok in particular, my best advice there is to figure out what other people are doing that are similar to you, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Like, look to others. What are they doing? What's working for them? What can you adapt and use for yourself? Another thing is what is your content that's working elsewhere? For example, I've seen a lot of like clothing companies do really cool TikToks where they're changing clothes on someone who's wearing clothes a lot, and that's the kind of content that works well for them on Instagram. They're like visible video content, and so it's working well for them on TikTok as well, which is really cool. And then another thing that I will do, especially if you're just starting on TikTok, is there are a lot of trends on TikTok. So like there's a challenge to do this, or I think there was a pillow challenge in terms of like wear a pillow as your wardrobe, for example. And some of those might not align perfectly with your business, but when they're doing challenges and trends, those are more visible to their audience. So I would say start trying which of those can you jump in on, and that way you'll be able to reach more people, and then you're also just engaging with the wider TikTok community. So yeah, look to others, figure out what content is working well elsewhere that you can adapt to TikTok and kind of create new content there, and then see what kind of challenges you can take part in, what kind of trends you can take part in there.
That's great advice. Thank you. Dennis, this is a situation I think probably a lot of businesses are in right now. They say we only have email addresses for about half of our customers, and we have they don't have a list of future customers. So how would they go about developing an email list now when they need it the most?
Yeah, that is a good question. We've been really big on collecting that contact information on emails and phone numbers. One of the main things, one of our main products is web chat, where on your website or any place where you're going to be promoting the phone number of your business, is to have basically a web chat, Podium web chat, which allows the customer to put in their phone number and initiate that message and create that communication channel. And then you have that going forward to be able to communicate with them any way you need. And so over time, you'll build up that list of phone numbers and emails with those inbounds as you kind of promote that, or say, hey, reach out to us this way. And that will build that list over time, and you can start messaging out to them and keep that communication and keep it in a channel that's most familiar to them, right? And so, a lot of times we think just about email, but people are going to be reaching out to you on Facebook. They're going to be reaching out to you on Facebook Messenger and these different communication channels. And it's important to build not just an email list, but communication with your customers across all those channels, and push your customers to those resources, so that you can have them inbound in that way. Okay. And it can vary per industry. And so one of the things, and I think we're going to post this link in the messages here for everyone, but one of the things that we did was we built a resource center because we had so many customers coming in with questions like this. Hey, how do we do it for our car dealership? How do we do it for our furniture store? How do we keep this going? And we started compiling these use cases. And so we built a resource center for everyone. So if you go to podium.com/COVID, this will be a compiled list of resources and examples from businesses from, like I said, any industry. We work with 45,000 businesses, so we got a lot of examples. And you can go through and read through that and see what applies. And a lot of them go like cross-vertical, across the industry of how people are adapting during this time. And hopefully it's not going to be so permanent, and we'll get back to things, mostly to normal, but that's a resource for everyone in the meantime.
Great, thank you. Marcus, I wanted to ask you this question, just because I feel like you're always full of inspiring advice. This person says, I own a dog daycare center and it's currently shut down. So basically the only thing this person sells is taking care of their clients' dogs, and they can't do that right now. So Because you have built such a community around your business, I wonder if you have any advice on how to try to keep promoting your business when you really cannot provide the service that your customers come to you for.
I think one of the things that has to be done is show yourself as an expert, right? Your guests come to you because they believe you have a value, you have a service that they like, that they love. And when I say show yourself as an expert, tips of the day, whatever your pet may be, your guests may be going through, your pet is going through, right? This is a switch for pets, right? Who have owners that are home all day long. You know, you got to think about it. Dogs used to have the house to themselves. Cats used to have the house to themselves for at least 8 hours, and now they don't have that anymore. So just different ways on how to, what people can be doing with their pets. Grooming tips, training tips, nutrition, fun things to do with your pet. I am a pet owner. We have a proud puppy Borble owner, and so we're having a great time, even though she's messing up the house all day, all morning long. But I think it's important that you show yourself as an expert, create that content, that constant communication, and if you can, and I know that there are people who, and I don't know if your business is a necessity, but I know my vet is a necessity, so they're open and the groomer is there. So I don't know if that's an avenue for you or not. But again, building community, getting people to understand why it's important to sustain your business, and offering something to them in exchange for something that they may find valuable or offer to you. And I don't know if you have anything to sell online, any products. One of the things that I mentioned at the start of the show, this forces the entrepreneur to be an entrepreneur, to listen to the marketplace and hear what they're calling for. And it may get you to pay attention to an area of your business that you've neglected, that you hadn't thought about, that you hadn't had time to delve in. Right now, we developed a product line almost 10 years ago. Right now, we have sold the most products that we've sold in the history of our product line. And that's because we're forced to deal in that business. So in front of me is a stack of boxes, table high, ceiling high, that have to go out with seasoning and pancake mix and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you can sell treats by the internet, or if you can sell little goodies, little trinkets, dog toys, cat toys, things of that nature. But you got to get that thinking cap going. You got to be creative. You got to be innovative.
Great. Haley, I have one more for you, and then Dennis, I have one more for you. So Haley, this person says, I just launched my food business and I haven't built up a database of customers. The initial launch strategy involved pop-ups in farmers markets to introduce my product, and now that's not possible. So they're asking about how to use social to acquire new customers, and specifically, is advertising on social really their only option? So I just wonder if you have thoughts about how to use social to acquire new customers who haven't experienced your product yet.
Yeah, and that's a really great question about ads too. At Buffer, we're an entirely organic platform. So we help with posting, like scheduling, analytics, but we don't do any ads. And I've seen mixed thoughts on this. So some people, if ads work for you, that's really great. But what we've done is try to create a place where customers can create their content and reach their customers without needing to pay for ads. And I do think that that is 100% possible. And I have a lot of really good examples and case studies of businesses that have done that. And I will say, so this is an interesting situation. So the person just started their business. I'll say a couple of things I would recommend is still creating great content, and use the right hashtags wherever you are creating and posting that content. Use the right hashtags. That is an incredible way to reach new people. People follow hashtags, and that's one of the ways that they find new content. So look and try to figure out how you can find those hashtags. One of the things I do if you're using Instagram is just start typing in the hashtag, and Instagram will show you how many people have used it. And your instinct is probably to go for the one that has the most uses, but then you're going to get lost in a sea of other posts, with some of them from celebrities. So try to find posts that have fewer likes, not like only 10 or only 20, but in the thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, and not in the millions, because you'll actually reach more people that way. Try to find your local ones too. It sounds like you're a local business. So what are the ones for your town, for your city, for the area that you live in, for your state? And then one of the other things that I will say is, it sounds like you were partnering with other businesses at these farmer markets. And I want to say that's still possible to partner with other businesses. Farmers markets, some of them are doing online events, or if there are other businesses in your community that you think you can partner with because you offer complementary services, then you can join in. And what value can you add to their community? Maybe you can go on their Instagram Live, or you can write a blog post for their blog or something. And that's a way to reach their community and add value to them while still growing your business. So I would say look for those little unique opportunities. Use the right hashtags, see who you can partner with, and then just focus on creating that really good content that's going to reach people. And it'll reach people by being shared by others because you've put so much value in there, and by using those right hashtags.
That's great. Thank you. Dennis, I have about 1 minute left for you to answer this question. But it's a good question, and a lot of people upvoted it. Since everyone is sending emails to their customers and their customers are overwhelmed, what can you do to craft an email that's not just going to get deleted?
Yeah, that's a great question. This kind of goes back, I think, a little bit earlier to what Marcus and I were talking about, adding the personal touch and leaning on the relationship that you have with your customers, right? And at first, it's, this situation was extremely terrifying, right? And businesses were shell-shocked, and customers were, just everybody was just freezing up. But I think now, since we've been a month or so into this, we're all trying to find what that new normal is, right? And so expressing some of that normalcy in your messaging and adding that personal touch, I think that's what really, really breaks through all the noise out there and really gets to those customers. And what's so encouraging to me, I guess, is we are really active at compiling all the success stories from the businesses out there. And it is so encouraging to me, to where if this is the new normal, then I am very encouraged that we'll be able to adapt, and we will be able to find what that new normal is, and everybody will get comfortable with that. And if it is going to go back to normal, then we'll all be a little bit better prepared, and we'll have better experiences in place to handle things remotely, to handle things and handle better communication with our customers, and be a little better. So yeah. I think that message and that personal touch is really what cuts through all the noise, and we're helping businesses try to do that.
Thank you. It goes back to what Marcus said, which is this is where you remember why you were an entrepreneur in the first place.
Right.
It is time for me to wrap up. I want to say thank you, Haley, Dennis, and Marcus. I really, really appreciate your time. It was so great to see you again. To the audience, thank you. I know your time is precious right now, and we really appreciate you spending time with us. Before you go, I just want to tell you that I know a lot of you have questions about the Paycheck Protection loans, and we didn't cover them here because we were focusing on customer engagement. But I do want to tell you that we have a weekly series on Fridays at noon Eastern time, partnering with Inc., where we are talking almost exclusively about the loans available to small businesses. We've had a couple so far, and they are posted on Co. So let me quickly walk you through where you can find all of this on Co. We are uschamber.com/co, or if it's easier, growwithco.com. When you go there, you will find our small business coronavirus guide with all of our coronavirus information and advice for small businesses. We also have uschamber.com/loans, where you can find all of our information on these coronavirus loans. And we recently did a study with MetLife where we looked at how the coronavirus is impacting small business, and you can see that on the screen as well. So thank you so much for your time. Next week, 10:30 Eastern time on Wednesday, we'll do our next workshop, and that will be focused on how do you maintain your company culture and stay connected with your employees when they are likely either working from home or really putting in long hours on the front lines. So thank you so much. It was great to host this. Thanks, you guys. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.